So, not to brag about what I have, but my house has running water. Filling up water bottles, super easy. I even have a toilet. So when I'm done with my coffee, I don't have to dig a hole. I can just go into the bathroom and sit there, everything's cool. I've even got climate control. I can just tell it what temperature I want the house to be, and boom. Yet with all these creature comforts, I like camping. I still like staying in a tent for a couple of days, digging a hole when I'm done with my coffee, being okay with whatever the temperature is. There are a lot of other things like that. Purposely doing something less comfortable. And so today I'm gonna ride a trail on this 90s era full rigid mountain bike. Now, some of you remember us building this on Flip Bike. It was in really bad shape. I think I bought this for like 55, 60 bucks. And it runs perfectly fine like it would have in the 90s. I did squeeze some fatter tires onto it just to make my life a little bit easier. They barely fit. I had to like sand down the side treads a little bit so it would clear. I added a frame mounted pump and also something else you don't see much anymore, a saddle pouch, because I'm gonna need stuff to repair this. Now, what I'm doing has a name. It's called underbiking. You take a bike that's less capable than the trail you're riding or the bike you normally ride, and yeah, you underbike. You just make sure that you don't have what you need to get through the ride. And it's fun. You do it for the heck of it, just like going camping or listening to vinyl. And today we're going to talk about all the reasons why underbiking is a really fun and affordable activity. So first of all, one of the main benefits of underbiking is you can do something a little different, have yourself an experience, and not spend a whole bunch of money on it. You can dig your dad's old bike out of the garage, or you can buy something on Facebook Marketplace for next to nothing, get it running, and go out and have a good time. And what's funny is, with this bike fixed up, there are certain things it does just as well, if not better, than a modern bike. For example, it's really not that bad for climbing. Now, I could see how really technical or gnarly climbs could be difficult on this just because of the geometry, but for normal climbing, it's actually really comfortable because you're sitting up, it's easy to get your weight over the front of the bike, and it's light. This doesn't have suspension linkage, it doesn't have a suspension fork. Bikes were just smaller in general. And so on the beginning of your ride, when you're just pedaling up a road or going up some single track, it's actually quite enjoyable and kind of fun. These older bikes also have tons of range. Yeah, it's got this little 7-speed cassette over here, but it's also got a 3x, so you can just drop a ring and have tons of power to go up whatever hill you want. So at least on the climbing part of my ride, I'm riding a light bike that's got plenty of range, really comfortable to sit on. I'm having a nice day. Let me show you a few things on this bike that were a little bit different, starting with the handlebars. These are very narrow. They're about the width of my shoulders now, arms straight out. Back then, people just didn't go downhill as fast. They didn't need the leverage. There were also some concerns about trees. Narrow handlebars can go in between trees. Now we just cut the tree down and have a wider trail. And also, coming from a road bike, these handlebars actually are kind of wide. A bike like this has no suspension whatsoever. Your only suspension are your tires, and the tires weren't as fat. Like I said, this morning I put bigger tires on here. They didn't even clear the frame. I had to grind away nubs, and these are 2.25. That was like a fat tire bike back in 1992. Obviously the drivetrain is different, clangs around a lot, no clutch, no hydraulic disc brakes or disc brakes in general. This was before V-brakes. These are cantilever brakes. They designed them like this so that the cable will be far away from the tire and it could clear mud easier. So if you were riding around and stuff was flying into your wheel, the brake would have more clearance than a caliper brake. But I'd say the biggest difference is the geometry. The bike is so short and it's tall. And so when you get yourself into a difficult technical situation, it doesn't perform like the bikes of today. It's a little harder to get the bike underneath you and put it into position. And it's just easier to go over the handlebars or flip over because the bike is so tall and short. I prefer shorter bikes, and even my bike is way longer than this. But with that said, it gives you a feeling that you don't really get today. It's more of a sitting up on top of a horse feeling rather than sitting inside of a fighter jet cockpit. It's different and novel and makes you nostalgic. Oh God. So here's another advantage of having an underbike on hand. It can handicap you. So you have some friends or family coming into town. They've seen your little Facebook clips of mountain biking. They've got a case of the GoPro effect. They think it's gonna be easy. You know the easiest trail in town is gonna take all day with them there. Take your underbike. You'll do a lot less holding onto a tree waiting for them. They get your bike, the really capable one that's set up nice. You take out your underbike, it'll bring you guys just a little bit closer to the same level and everybody can have fun. And just like riding at night or riding in the snow, it can take a trail that you normally find kind of boring and make it really interesting. So here's something you're not gonna see very much anymore. A saddle pouch. These used to be immensely popular, can carry pretty much everything you need to fix your bike, and the only reason they went away is dropper seat posts and full suspension. If you have your seat too low and your suspension compresses, it's just gonna hit right into the saddle pouch, and so we carry stuff a different way, but the mountain bikers of yesteryear had these, and I kind of miss them. They rattle around a lot. I'm not very nostalgic for that, but they were really handy as a convenient way to carry stuff. And this Fidlock pouch, you can actually remove so you can get to all your stuff and then just snap it back into place. So the next thing we're gonna do is descend. So all that stuff I said about nostalgia and being able to handicap yourself and ride with friends, that's all well and good, but when it comes to descending, this is just straight up scary, especially if it's on wet, steep, technical terrain. And I kind of dig it, to be honest. Now, there are a lot of reasons why this is so sketchy to descend on, and it mostly comes down to tires. These bikes don't have tubeless tires. The rims are not tubeless ready. The tires are not as fat. They have to run way higher tire pressure. These are, I think, 40 PSI. And so you hit a wet rock or root and it just goes everywhere. It just can't get purchase on terrain as well. And it makes things really spicy. Now, another thing I mentioned before was the geometry. It's really hard to get up and behind this bike. It's just so short. And so you really have to be confident about your line choice. Now, the fact that it's full rigid, the fact that there's no suspension, that only really matters when you're going fast. If you're going slow, you can pick your way through just about anything on this. But I must say, there are times when it's hard to go slow because we have rim brakes. We have these little skinny tires. I mean, everything about this, I find myself having to get more momentum on this bike than I really care to, given the conditions right now. But when I was a kid, I rode a bike like this, and I think a lot of the skills that I have today are there because I had to throw around a bike like that. I had to make it work. And if you take out your underbike every once in a while, you could tap into that knowledge base from the early 90s. Those mountain bikers, in a lot of ways, were way more masochistic. I mean, just think about it. They fell in love with mountain biking. They got addicted to it. They rode these bikes on trails like this, and that led to mountain biking as we know it today. And man, we've got it really nice and cushy today with all the technology we have on our bikes. And finally, the last benefit of underbiking is you can get into mountain biking for not that much money. People are practically giving these things away on the used market, and if you have a little bit of know-how and you're mechanically inclined, you could fix one up. You could go out on the trail and have some Type 2 fun and decide whether mountain biking's for you. I'll tell you what, the newer bikes make it a lot easier to go over stuff like this. But you'll be able to tell whether you like the physical output, whether you like being in the locations that people mountain bike in, and you can actually learn a whole ton on a bike like this. Like I said, this is what I learned on. And so whenever you see those articles that say 10 entry-level bikes under $4,000, ignore that. You don't need anything more than this if you want to just get out on the trail and call yourself a mountain biker. I hope you guys enjoyed underbiking with me today. It's not something I do all the time, but it is a novelty activity that's quite fun. I hope you'll try it yourself, where you will enlighten us with your tales of underbiking below. I hope you learned something today, and if you didn't, I hope you at least found this entertaining. Thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time.